Thank you. Just recently retired from the Masters University, and Dr. McLean now is the interim dean, because I just wanted to put more work on him. He's here somewhere. Raise your hand, Matt. He's here. Anyway, also, I want to thank Cedarville University. 30 years ago, I was hired as a faculty, and I had just come out of a postdoc. I was a researcher. I hadn't done much teaching, and we had a great 10 years here. We had 4 boys here, and we had a wonderful time. But I have to tell you this, they made me a better teacher. I thought I was doing okay until the second year, where they have these 2-year, 4-year, 6-year tenure review processes, and the committee was saying kind things, then they got really quiet, and they said, here's a list of things to work on. But isn't it great, though, that you can get that input? And so thank you, Cedarville, for hosting this and being here and being part of our lives. I want to talk about the immune system, and I do want to talk about handing a torch off on some of this work to other scientists. I think we can count the number of creation immunologists on half a hand, maybe 3, I don't know. Pretty low. The immune system is complicated. It is incredibly complicated with incredible design, and I've been intimidated about how to write and publish on the immune system. And since I have a degree in microbiology, I spent most of my time publishing on that, although early in my career I did a lot of work with white blood cells. But I teach both of these courses, and it's caused me some angst to teach both, because I talk about the wonderful design of the immune system in one class, and then I would talk about these horrible pathogens in the next class. And then I would think, why isn't the immune system taking care of these things? And I would see trends and things, but I was so busy teaching, I kind of ignored some of those problems. But I'm going to try to address that tonight as I talk about both topics, because there's a strong relationship between both subjects, especially if you look at the human body. I've written mostly in Creationism on microbiology and the biomatrix. The organosubstrate paper was about how microbes on Earth, by sheer number, most of them are beneficial. They're life-supporting on this Earth. The disease-causing microbes are low in number. The second topic was about how do we handle a toxin, like the Vibrio cholera toxin. And I give an example on how that toxin may have played a beneficial role. And then the third topic in the last ICC was how bacteriophages, does anybody remember what phages are? Phages are viruses? Viruses for bacteria. Phages as beneficial regulators of the mammalian microbiome, an idea that perhaps phages control, well, we know they control the bacteria in us, they control their population, but possibly also shield them from our immune system. And so those are the areas I've published on in the ICC. So the microbiome, what is that? The microbiome are the microorganisms that live on us or live on mammals. And so for every one of your 35 trillion cells, some of us more than others, you have at least one bacterial microbe. Here's the disturbing thought. Every one of those bacteria has probably 2 or 3 phages associated with it, maybe 10 species of phages. So by sheer number, you are mostly virus. Sorry. In 2020, I wouldn't have said that. Because microbiologists were bad guys by 2021. This is a sample of the human belly button, and you see a lot of uniformity in the microbes here. I'm not sure what the purple one is. It was probably falsely colored. And it is a part of our biology now and plays a beneficial role. We can be sick if the microbiome is disturbed. So what is the relationship between the microbiome and the immune system? The immune system, I'm going to show you tonight, is very narrow as far as what it has been designed to interact with. It has a very, very narrow window. You wouldn't think that, but it only interacts with certain bacteria and viruses primarily. It does, though, see cancer cells in your body. So how does the immune system, which is wired to see bacteria and viruses, how does it not destroy your microbiome? The other thing is both the microbiome and the immune system show exquisite design, including pathogenic mechanisms. The immune system design is impeccable, and I would say, as Kurt Wise would talk about, over-designed. It's redundant. You have a mini immune system in your blood called the complement system, 9 proteins that are ready to interact at any time with any microbe. It's a miniature immune system, can operate by itself. Very highly designed. The textbook I've used for 20 years has grown to that thickness. It's hard to keep up with everything. But it's disturbing because the immune system can exacerbate pathogenic mechanisms. It can be toxic to us. It probably did play a role in damage to our bodies during COVID because it was so overreacting. So how do we explain that in God's good design? So one of the things I've been working on in the last year or so, I was invited to write a review paper, and after about 12 pages of single-space text, I came up with a proposal that perhaps the immune system is a filter, and we have a microbiome around us in nature, and we have a microbiome in us. How do we reproduce some of that microbiome? It seems like a lot of it comes from the outside environment. Could the immune system be a filter? Was it originally designed to be a filter? I was invited to write a review on any subject I wanted into a journal and published it this last winter, and now I'm a little more suspicious of this conclusion. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to say. What I like about what I've been hearing in the creation talks is some of us saying, I got to work more on this idea. Creationists, I think sometimes we get so enamored with our own theories, we don't want to change them or modulate them or improve upon them. And now I'm wondering, as I prepared for this talk, whether the filter system is the right idea. And we'll get there. I think I'll show you what I mean. So here's what's interesting. Commensal microbes, so commensal would mean the good ones, the beneficial ones, the symbionts, are recognized by the immune system. This has just come out. It came out, at least I found it in the recent literature after I just published that paper. So one idea is commensal microorganisms, the good ones, are not recognized. They are recognized. And this is a huge discovery. This is really, really interesting. This is from Science magazine, May, less than 2 months ago. Of these encounters, the ability to discriminate harmless commensal microbes from pathogens given antigenic overlap remains one of the most notable feats of the immune system. We now have found that in your body, especially in the gut, it talks to the immune system. There's a communication pathway, and as a result of that, your immune system can see it or detect it as commensal and not attack. That is really interesting that your immune system can do that. This just came out in Science 2023. Just came out. I was surprised by it. There's a problem, however. Both pathogens and good microbes, both pathogenic microbes and good microbes, I'm talking mostly about bacteria here, let's back up. I forgot to describe the highlighted text. I'm going to read that again. Okay, of these encounters, the ability to discriminate harmless commensal microbes from pathogens given antigenic overlap. Does anybody remember what an antigen is in biology class? Antigens is something that turns on your immune system. They're usually proteins, they can be carbohydrates, they can be lipids. So an antigen, they tend to be on these microbes. They can activate your immune system to attack it. What this paper revealed was, and they knew it, the good microbes that live on us and the bad ones that can get in have similar proteins that activate. In fact, they're identical. They're identical. They both can activate the immune system. That means what? The good ones that live on us have some way to what? Shield it, or the immune system sees it in some way and sees the shield or sees the communication. This is really, really interesting because it's bothered me for 10 years. Because I would go into my microbiology, medical microbiology class, and you'll talk about gram-negative sepsis. Gram-negative sepsis is when bacteria, especially those that are anywhere in our body, can get into our bloodstream. Gram-negative sepsis, and some of you might have lost loved ones, kills 270,000 U.S. Americans in the U.S. every year. It's extremely toxic. Your body starts to shut down, goes into septic shock. The same antigenic parts of the pathogens are found on your good microbes. So what does that mean? That means, well, let me just show you. Here's the enigma. We need to go fast here. There's two groups we see bacteria today, especially in medicine too. We see them either gram-positive or gram-negative. That just means a stain. It goes back to the late 1800s. Dr. Graham came up with a stain. And so you see this gram-positive sliced out of the membrane and cell wall. This is a slice. Everyone see the two-track membrane? The two-track plasma membrane. Then there's a peptidoglycan coat. Peptidoglycan is an amazing chainmail protective coat. Otherwise, microbes will osmotically lyse. It's an incredible chainmail, but it is an antigen. It'll turn on your immune system. There's something called lipoteichoic acid that will turn on your immune system in these gram-positives. So gram-positives have this thick wall. They hold this stain. That's why they're called gram-positive. The gram-negatives can't hold the stain. They have two membranes, though. They have a little bit of the peptidoglycan chainmail, and they have something called LPS, lipopolysaccharide. Okay? The peptidoglycan is see if you can tell me, there are two parts, protein and what's glycan? Sugar, protein and sugar. The LPS is a lipid sugar, okay? And the teichoic acid is acidic and I think has some carbohydrates also. You inject these into human bloodstream, you could go into septic shock. These are found in your good microbes. They're common in every cell wall in just about every bacteria. So that didn't make sense to me. I would go to teach that class and say, people are dying of gram-negative sepsis, and the immune system is part of the problem here, or what's going on? So let me back up and tell you how the immune system works really fast, and then I'm going to show you that it's possibly anatomy that makes the difference. We can't forget, some molecular biologists have to remember organismal biology, right? And it plays a role here. So in the innate system, so we have two parts of the immune system. Innate, which are the first responders, right? They're innate, they respond first, they're phagocytic. This cell over here is interacting with microbes and viruses, ready to engulf them. The T cells, you've possibly heard of T cells and B cells, those are lymphocytes. Those are adaptive, meaning they have to be turned on, basically. They need to receive a message. This innate cell on the left is typically the cell that turns them on and says, I've got an invader. And it turns them on by finding those cell wall components. In fact, the innate cells only have about 50 or 60 known receptors that cause them to be alarmed. This is where it gets really narrow. You don't have a receptor to pollen. You probably have a receptor that cross-reacts with pollen. Okay? You have receptors, they're finely tuned to these components. These components. And there's a few more. The DNA inside viruses and the DNA inside bacteria are also, they respond to. So you only have a few receptors by this innate cell, and they just happen to be the ones that are part of our commensal cells, right? The good bacteria, right? You have these receptors on innate cells, on these innate immune cells that recognize your own bacteria and pathogenic bacteria. And they alert the T cell and the B cell. What we have found out is that when your good bacteria tries to tell the immune system, I'm here, they communicate directly with the T cell. That's interesting. But still, how do you avoid your good bacteria from interacting with your innate cells? And here's the secret. Here's the secret. It's anatomy. It's anatomy. Okay, so your 70 trillion plus commensal microbes, the good ones that live on you, the 70 trillion plus live basically in two places. What are those two places? Your gut and your skin. That's interesting. Your body is very sterile in most of its areas. That's why your immune system is there. Okay, the immune system, I think, is more so than a filter, is probably directing integrity of all your cells, your tissues. Because if it sees a cancer cell, it knows that cancer cell is in the wrong place. If it sees a microbe inside you, it knows it's in the wrong place. So now you need a detection mechanism for all the microbes. So most of your good microbes live in these two areas, and they're separated from the immune system. The gut, here, you see the bacteria, the pill-shaped things, those are the bacteria. They cannot get through what? What's the green stuff? Mucus. Mucus is an incredible substance. Mucus is an incredible barrier. I actually was invited to a talk, immunology meeting in Oxford, and a young professor just a few years ago gave a talk on mucus. It's one of the best I've ever heard. It's an incredible integrity. It has integrity to keep those bacteria away from the rest of your body, but they can still communicate with the body, which is interesting. And then over here, your skin, what's that last layer that doesn't allow those bacteria in? Epithelial, skin, dead, you see the thin ones? Dead skin cells, right? So most of your microbiome lives on what? Your exterior surfaces. Think about it. Ignore your legs right now. The rest of you is a tube, right? With a hollow center to the outside. So most of your microbiome lives on the outside of you. Outside your gut and outside your skin. So it kind of makes sense then that the immune system is kind of like a filter. But how can it be a filter if it can't even get to the bacteria? And how do the bacteria communicate? We don't know, but in this science article, it says basically that in the gut, what can happen is the microbe sends a signal into that mucus. There's some white blood cells around. They're always around somewhere. They just can't get to that layer very well. And dietary antigens. Some of the few food you eat, the immune cell says, oh, I see this protein coming from the food, and I see this protein coming from the bacteria. Okay, that's a good guy. Like two-factor authentication on your phone, right? Right? When you check into the bank, you got your password, you've got your login, and then it says, we're going to call you and give you a number. Don't you hate that? So but it works, two-factor authentication. This is what's happening here. So I'm working on this idea that now it makes more sense to me that all microbes have those factors that can alert the immune system. It's a safeguard, right? The immune system, if that microbe gets into your blood, even if it's a good one, it can cause problems. So now you have this, I think, kind of a filter, but more of a guard, a sentinel system that doesn't allow, but it controls the integrity of all your tissues, your microbiome tissues and your own tissues, to preserve integrity. Okay, but then the question is, why have this system at all? Why have creatures that live on us from the outside? Why do we need them? What part of design, good design, is that? And so one of the most fascinating things that has come out in the last few years is that there's something called a gut-brain axis. A gut-brain axis. Your microbiome in your gut is not only talking to your immune system, it's talking to your central nervous system. So we have taken gut microbes from long-distance runners, and we put them in the guts of mice, and they run longer on their treadmills. We have taken bacteria from folks who are depressed and put it in mice, and those mice kind of roll over and sleep a lot. They get depressed too. We have taken, we have some babies that have milk intolerance very early. We can take those bacteria, put it in the gut of mice, and they'll have milk intolerance. It's called the gut-brain axis. So I think, I thought for a while the immune system was also a sensory device, sensing our environment, bringing in certain microbes. Now I think the microbiome is a sensory device. It's a sensory device that's part of us and maybe not working fully in this broken world. I think traveler's illness could kind of collaborate this, right? You can go to a country and get travel sickness, but everyone around you doesn't. They're already immune. And maybe the other way we could look at it is you go to a foreign place and you plug into that microbiome and you have other benefits that God wanted you to have. And I think that's really interesting. I wish I had more time, but here are some conclusions. The immune system is designed to preserve tissue integrity. I think more than a filter, that's what it does. It's a surveillance system that preserves all your integrity, even your microbiome. And I'm pretty excited about that. The immune system is designed to be activated by only a small subset of foreign proteins and nucleic acids. It's very narrow. Pathogenesis in our post-fall world can result from an overreactive and underreactive immune system. Pathogenic microbes appear to be rare in nature compared to those that are involved in life support of all living creatures. The microbiome participates in immune function by constantly priming and muting the immune system and preventing residency of pathogenic microbes. I forgot to tell you, there are other papers out there that say not only does the microbiome alert your immune system, sometimes there's several different pathways. One pathway says, calm down. A second pathway says, make more cells because a pathogen could be here. Make more T cells. So that's going on. Okay. And then the last one, the resident microbiome acts as a sensory device, providing input along the gut-brain axis regarding the surrounding environment. All of these statements could be part of new projects out there. And the immune system is, let me tell you this one more thing, because I've told you some horrible things about people that we can die and all that stuff. I tell my students this almost every day in immunology class. Your immune system, and I can guarantee this, protects you minute by minute. It's protecting you right now. Okay, someone has breathed something out in this room and you're being protected. Okay, and so thank the Lord for that. Thanks for listening.